MCG quantity surveyors are a favourite for property managers around Australia to help their clients maximise their cash flow through tax depreciation. I love how they place a strong emphasis on industry-leading education and data releases that they share with our community, and because they support the property industry so much, it is a no-brainer to use them for all your tax depreciation needs.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for coming on with me today. As you know, we've chatted before, and I just wish I had this when I was a property manager. So that's why I just want to get as much as I can from you today on how we can encourage property managers to look into what Sensor has to offer and see if they can implement it into their offices. So I really appreciate you coming on, Anthony. What do you reckon would be the top 3 reasons why property managers should implement Sensor into their offices?
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Shannon. It's always a pleasure catching up with you and sharing as much as we can with you and the people you work with, first and foremost. In terms of that question, look, it's a very good one because what we're doing at Sensor hasn't been done before. It's a whole new world for property managers, and it's all about helping them work smarter, not harder, when it comes to new tech that's certainly going to make their lives easier. But the biggest thing that we're trying to do here is save lives. And with smoke alarms, obviously only working smoke alarms save lives. The big thing we're not going to know about, and this is one of the unmeasurables with using Sensor, is how many lives we do actually save moving forward, because the system is an always on scenario. It's connected 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So a property manager can tell exactly what's going on within a home. Mm-hmm. That technology they've never had access to before. Mm-hmm. It's always been, if they get testing done once every 12 months, you only know 1 day out of 365 exactly what's going on. So yes, the tenant has, put back into place that smoke alarm that they've had sitting on the kitchen bench or sitting in a cupboard for the last 364 days. And I know that you and your team have seen countless scenarios in your time. And as you mentioned before, you would have loved to have seen this, when you were a property manager, once upon a time when Jesus was a boy. But it's just one of those things that it's actually going to change the way in which property managers work day to day. It's going to provide a safer environment for tenants, and it's going to protect the landlord's biggest investment, which is that investment property. Mm-hmm. So there's probably a number of reasons, but first and foremost, it is to obviously save tenants' lives. Also, it's giving property managers access to information that they've never had before. They'll know when a tamper actually occurs with a tenant. So his said smoke alarm, as soon as I open that up as a tenant, mm-hmm. Hopefully you can hear that beeping. Did you hear that? No,
I didn't. But
no, sorry. So it actually beeps. That'd be the noise suppression within Zoom. That. But actually, what happens is both the tenant and the property manager get an SMS notification to say, "Hey, Shannon, we know the tenant at 10 Smith Street has just opened the alarm in the hallway." Mm-hmm. There's an audit trail that gets created. Awesome. It gets stored in the back end of the Sensor software, which, should you need to go to court and have a discussion around a notice of breach by the tenant because they continually open the alarm and play with things, you've got that audit trail there to protect the property manager as well. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that the PM can get notified when the alarm actually goes off. If it is a faulty alarm, if the battery within the alarm, even though they are typically hardwired, they do have a 10-year lithium battery backup in them. Mm-hmm. If the battery is getting low, if the chamber of the alarm is dirty, there's a whole series of different alerts and notifications that can occur. Yeah, wow. Even if the property loses power, mm-hmm. The system will tell the PM, hey, there's a power outage at 10 Smith Street. So the tech behind this ecosystem is really, really cool. And it's not just smoke alarms. We've now got the next device off the rank is water leak detectors. Yeah. And, every property manager either has their own horror story when it comes to flexi hoses bursting or appliance hoses popping off, or they know someone within their agency, or, you know, their best friends had a story, whatever it may be. But these water leak detectors now will simply be placed. They're not plumbed in. They're simply just placed under a kitchen sink where a flexi hose may exist, under a dishwasher, under a washing machine, maybe an ensuite vanity, and they're designed to pick up pooling water. So the moment that happens, the PM gets notified, the tenant gets notified, and they can act quickly to then, you know, turn off the water to that particular part of the home, which will save a lot of damage moving forward as well. So it's a pretty much we're building out a complete compliance and risk mitigation solution for not just property managers, but for tenants and also landlords at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like peace of mind for agencies, right? Like, you're in bona fide control of those properties. You've got to make sure that you are compliant. So massive peace of mind if you've got something like this in place. It's not just once a year when your electrician's going or whatnot. So yeah, I think it's great. I mean, unless there's a tenant that consistently is a bad cook and sets the alarm off, but hopefully I'm sure you've thought about that for turning those ones off or not, or at least we know.
Well, that's it. That's exactly right. So, you know, the sensor solution is the only solution that will tell you when something is wrong. So you then do know, you know, it's the only way you're going to know.
Yeah.
And bad cooking aside, we've actually got in development some version 2 of the smoke alarm as such, which will determine the difference in cooking smoke. So someone that burns the bacon every Saturday morning when they're making their bacon and eggs, compared to actual smoke from an inferno. So it'll actually have that differential between the two. And the other thing with you know, the 1 day a year test, well, sensor actually allows you to test it as many times as you like throughout the year. The default's once a quarter. Now, if you think that's going to be too often, it's much the same as your routine inspections. How often do you want to do those? You know, is it once a quarter or once every 6 months, whatever it may be? You can set the frequency of testing with sensor to be as often as you like. So if you wanted it every single day, you could do it. But, you know, even once a week or once a quarter, the system notifies the tenant to say, hey, Shannon, we're going to be testing your alarms this Friday at 10 a.m. Is this convenient? Yes or no? If it's not, the tenant can then reschedule that time of testing for any time that day, especially if they've got a sleeping newborn or something like that and they know that they're going to be down at 10 a.m. Well, they can push it back without any PM interaction to later that day. The test happens, and what actually happens is the test occurs, it sends a signal off, and I'll just grab this so you can see what it looks like. This is the sensor smart hub that's hardwired into the home, and that's actually the conduit between the tenant's home and the sensor software, which is integrated nicely and seamlessly with Property Me, Property Tree, and Console Cloud at this point. But it allows that testing to occur, and within 5 minutes, there's a compliance certificate generated from that test, which is then, you know, sitting within the sensor dashboard, but it's also pushed back up into the trust system along with the last test date as well. So, you know, the PM doesn't even have to lift a finger. The tenant inconvenience is taken away from that physical inspection perspective as well.
Yeah.
And you're going to have increased tenant satisfaction, along with the fact that you've got that paper trail from every single test or event that's occurred throughout the year. So if in the event that there is a fire, you can say, hey, look, we actually tested those alarms, you know, not even 3 months ago, and they came back as being fully functional and everything else. And obviously the tenant or the occupants have been able to get out and they're still alive. So that's the biggest thing from our perspective is, making sure that they're working 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and tenants are aware of, you know, they're living in a safer home for having that system in play.
That's what I was going to say. Like, the tenants just knowing that this is in their property that they're renting surely would be a positive for a landlord. If obviously the cost is with the landlord, I assume, Anthony, is that right? So
that's exactly right.
So for the landlord to be putting these things into a property, their property is going to be more desirable to a tenant as well. I know it's obviously a crazy rental market out there at the moment, but if we can do more to, look after tenants as well, I think that is going to help in the long run, essentially, too. Have you had any sort of property managers that have been, I guess, trying to encourage landlords to use sensor and maybe the landlords have sort of pushed back and said, oh no, let's just keep it the way it is with our standard electrician? Do you have any sort of tips or help to educate the landlords, help the property managers educate the landlords to use sensor?
Yeah, so it's it's certainly a new solution. So there's a lot of people that haven't been exposed to sensor whatsoever. Yeah. And we'll be doing a big marketing push in the coming weeks to get people better educated about what it is, how it works, and so on. Mm. In terms of the people that I've spoken to so far, you're always going to have a landlord that turns around. There's always one or two in every portfolio. There could be a few more, but there's always going to be one or two that turn around and say, you know what, I'm happy with the process that's being done at the moment. They're landlords that you normally struggle to get them to spend money on normal repairs and maintenance anyway, and those people shouldn't be landlords in the first place. I don't have to explain that to you. But there are others that go, you know what, I do care about my tenants. I do have an investment property. It's my financial nest egg for when I want to retire or, I want to expand a portfolio or live off the income, whatever it may be in future, that are prepared to spend money and say, hey, look, this is a good thing. And as we build out this ecosystem, we're only going to be adding more and more. They're called IoT devices, and IoT stands for Internet of Things. But, we've got smoke alarms at the moment. We've got water leak detection devices. We're going to have a water shut-off valve in 6 months that will allow the moment a leak is detected, it will engage the shut-off valve to then cut the water to that property. Okay, so water damages from an insurance perspective, which I'm sure you're well aware, Shannon, they're the biggest pain in the backside for everyone involved because you've now got a tenant that needs to be rehomed. A landlord's going to have to, look at getting repairs done through their insurer, which they're never easy to deal with. You're in the middle as the property manager and you're trying to juggle everything else that you're doing within your own portfolio or business as well. And then you've got trades involved. So there's all these different stakeholders in an insurance claim. But these water shut-off valves are designed to, limit that damage from water leaks. We've also got a heat alarm that's going to come to market shortly that is simply installed in the garage of all places. It's designed to pick up not smoke, but change in temperature. And when that temperature gets above 55 degrees, say in the garage, someone's charging a lithium battery for an e-bike or a scooter or something like that, where there's been a number of fires caused by those particular batteries and charging systems. The heat alarm will then be interconnected with the smoke alarms to notify everyone in the home, hey, we've got an issue, you need to get out. Yeah. So, there's a whole host of different devices that we can build out within this ecosystem moving forward. So it's going to become a lot more compelling from a landlord's perspective to basically look at sensor as a solution. It is also going to share some insurance benefits for landlords as well. So awesome. We've got an offer on the table through an insurer that will allow a landlord to get an obligation-free quote on a combined property and landlord insurance policy. Right. And should the landlord take that policy on, the insurer is actually going to cover the sensor commitments for that landlord. So they can get it at zero ongoing costs, which is fantastic. And look, for those of you that do want to know, it's a zero upfront cost to the landlord initially. So there's no money upfront for the equipment or the installation of said equipment. It's simply a subscription plan moving forward of $14.99 a month, so $14.99 a month, including GST. which is also 100% tax deductible. And that covers the installation of the sensor smart hub, which I showed you before is the conduit between the home and the software, along with up to 3 smoke alarms, depending on the legislative requirements for that particular home, and also a pair of water leak detectors.
Perfect.
So
I was just going to say that
bundle.
What's included in that? So it's the 3 smoke alarms and the 2 water leak detectors essentially at this point in time. And then obviously as the services expand out, would those potentially be additional costs, or you're sort of still working that at this stage?
No, so for each additional device, so when it comes to market, whether it's the heat alarm or the water shut-off valve, if a landlord that's already taken part in Sensor wants to add additional devices to their monthly subscription, it's simply just an extra $5 per device per month.
Okay.
So instead of us saying to a landlord, right, we've now got a water shut-off valve, the retail on that device might be, call it $150, then it's going to be another $100 to install it. We're simply just saying we'll cover that cost, and it's going to be an extra $5 a month if you wanted to have that particular device installed in your home. So it's a very very unique offering. And as that ecosystem builds out, it's going to certainly, just create more and more interest from an owner's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that insurance, I guess, collaboration that you're talking about, are they covering that just for the first year, or how long do they sort of?
That's ongoing.
Got insurance with them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So as long as you maintain the interest in having sensor, within the home, and you maintain that policy and the insurer is SGUA, and as long as you continue to insure with SGUA, they'll continue to cover your sensor commitments moving forward.
Yeah, fantastic. I think, obviously, just circling back to that question before in like how to educate landlords that might be sort of, oh no, I'm happy with what I'm doing now. You can't really compare the two, right? I mean, what you're offering in Sensor is completely different to what an electrician does when they go out and just check the smoke alarm or the RCD, essentially, each year. So I think that's one of the biggest things is for property managers to understand that they have 2 very different things that we're looking at here. It's not necessarily a comparison. Maybe it might seem like that to begin with when you first hear about what it is with the smoke alarms, but with these water leak detection, your electrician's not going to be doing that, obviously. So yeah, it's a completely separate thing. And I think I've just sort of really understood that now myself, is you can't compare them. They're completely different.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The team at The Grout Guy are leading experts in regrouting, waterproofing and tiling services nationwide. Property managers find comfort in their 10-year waterproof warranty on all full shower regrouts. Visit thegroutguy.com.au to rejuvenate your property's tiles and grout now.
Yeah, and that's why the smoke alarms was just the first point of entry for us into the market. We're not a smoke alarm company by any means. We're not an electrician, either. We're a prop tech solution, so we are essentially a software solution which involves these IoT devices. And we're, like I said earlier, we're a compliance and risk mitigation solution. So yes, smoke alarms are part of the compliance side of things, but then when you talk about water leak, you talk about water shut-off valves, heat alarms, gas leak, gas shut-off valves, carbon monoxide alarms. There's a whole array of different devices that are there and designed to reduce the exposure of risk to a landlord and provide a safer environment for tenants. And this is not just in the permanent rental space. This is also in short term, so Airbnbs, all that sort of stuff as well. Where you might want to have a decibel reading device. There's potentially a cigarette and vape detector. There's you name it, you can just about turn it into a device of some sort, and we can tap that into our ecosystem and offer it to landlords and property owners down the track. The other thing we will have in time will be a owner-occupier solution. So, you can have this gear installed in your own home to help monitor things like water leaks. And, if you go away for holidays and you come back and you've got a burst flexi hose, the unfortunate thing is with flexi hoses, they can potentially pump out 600 litres of water in an hour.
Yeah.
So they can be quite destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always just under a kitchen sink. It could be in a bathroom or a laundry or, in a unit block,
Yeah,
you could have a unit high up in a high rise, and all of a sudden it starts to impact levels below and so forth. So there's some big things. And
Awesome.
just recently there was a gas leak in a government housing complex in Sydney. I'm not sure if it made the news in WA, but it leveled 2 or 3 townhouses, and unfortunately someone perished. They were crushed, and it was in a government housing estate. There's with tragedy. It's very unfortunate, but that's why things like this are starting to evolve to prevent those tragedies happening in future. So it's not whoever has sort of seen or heard about sensor in the past, because smoke alarms were our first step. That's generally what they think we are, as a smoke alarm provider, but we're not. We're actually a software provider with IoT devices tacked into it.
Yeah, perfect. No, I love it. I think once you obviously launch, and you've launched, the offer is out there, but once you start pushing the product, I think I think it's just going to take off. I think it's a no-brainer, and I've always said that to you the last few months that we've been chatting. I just wish I had it as a property manager. So I think it will definitely make everyone's lives a lot easier. And in terms of $14.95, whatever you said, per month, like
$14.99,
$99, it just seems like very reasonable. You add that up over the year, it might be slightly more than what you're paying your electrician to do one thing and just check that smoke alarm. At least you're checking other things while you're doing it. So no, well done to you guys. I think it's great. I think honestly, I think you'll definitely make some waves over in Perth as well. I think it's needed, and we like to take up tech over here too. So I'm sure people will
the feedback I've had, Shannon, has been quite good. Like, there's plenty of people that are very interested in knowing more about it, understanding how it works, and it's just having that 2-minute conversation with someone to say, right, this is the concept, this is how it works, and this is what it creates for you. It's going to make people's lives a hell of a lot easier. It will tell you when something is wrong. That's the only time you have to pay attention to it. If everything is going along swimmingly, and you've got tenants that aren't, opening alarms for the sake of it, or turning things off, or just, being pests as such, you're going to be fine. And we even had a community housing provider on the East Coast that thought the alarms in a particular property were faulty, because something was happening at 10 o'clock every morning and then at 4 o'clock every afternoon. And it turns out that the tenant was actually turning the smoke alarms off at 10 a.m., doing whatever they were doing in that home until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then switching them back on. And there was a regular pattern occurring with this particular property.
Wow.
And it turns out the tenant was doing something untoward.
Right.
They ended up getting served some breach notices, and basically, because the PM had the audit trail there, which is automatically created, they were able to serve some notices to this tenant, and the rest they say is history. So look, it's there to protect property managers as well.
Yeah.
And the $14.99 a month, zero upfront cost from a landlord. So we supply the equipment, we have it installed, all that sort of stuff as well. It doesn't cost the landlord anything. We're actually going to give them 6 months free as well upon signing up. So they'll have that first 6 months at no cost.
Yeah.
And the $14.99 is actually invoiced quarterly. So it's, just under $45 a quarter. It works out to be no more than $3.50 a week. And if you break it down, it's 49 cents a day.
Yeah.
And then if they do happen to, show any interest in the SGUA proposal and they take on that policy, SGUA are going to cover that cost moving forward. So it's, doesn't cost them a cent. And they get a reduced premium of sorts through SGUA and a great outcome for all.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Honestly, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to sort of add in? I think that's about it.
No, pretty much watch this space. So as time goes by, like I said, we'll have heat alarms shortly. We'll have water shut-off valves in the next 6 months, probably somewhere around Christmas time. Plenty of other devices. And the thing is, it's a set and forget mentality from the property manager's perspective. Once the integration has been set up with Property Metry or Console Cloud, it updates daily. There's nothing else for the PM to do. So any new properties that have been signed on and set up, any changes to landlord or tenant contact info are updated automatically. And then once the testing has been completed, we push the compliance certificate back into the trust system. We push the last test date back in there as well. And even the invoicing once a quarter, it's pushed straight back into their pending payments or pending bills section for immediate disbursement come end of month or, mid-month, depending on when it falls. So even their trust accountant within their organisation doesn't have to think of anything else. They just click pay at the end of the month and away they go. So we're streamlining everything to make sure that PMs, even though it's a new tech product, it's designed to make them or help them work smarter, not harder when it comes to,
you're not
regular compliance and risk.
Yeah, you're not giving them something else to do, which we don't want at the moment. We've got plenty to do. So tech is great, and you're very right. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with that, is just organising it all for them and providing what they need to be able to take it on. I think that's important. So yeah, well done on that point. I think like I said, all of us love tech, but they don't have the time to learn it, essentially. And I guess that's sort of, why our business is still here as well. It's because
that's exactly
there's
right.
So much involved in what they have to do day to day. And it gets tricky. So well done in looking after it all. But
well, amazing. We're trying to add value and save them time, because property managers have enough hats to wear day to day. There's never enough hours in the day as well. And this system will save them time and cover their backsides as well automatically. Like everything is automated. Once they set it up for the testing, it's automated, notifies the tenant. Tenant can, reschedule whenever they like, and the PM just gets alerted to stuff when it actually happens instead of, not knowing that a smoke alarm has been taken down by a tenant because it was beeping while they were cooking bacon, or they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing, whatever it may be. But especially with the water leak stuff and everything else that's coming, it's pretty neat. And the idea is just to educate more and more about it. And we'll have all that information, brochures for new business, emails for landlords, information for landlords. Also happy to do these videos with agencies that want to put together little snippets of stuff to feed to landlords as well. But it's all very, very simple and straightforward at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good offering for a BDM. Over here, obviously, we're all increasing our rent rolls hugely at the moment with the investor market. So I think, to add it on to a little BDM spiel while they're out talking to a landlord or on a Zoom, I think easy enough. And you've got that paperwork or that sort of sign-up form that I know you've showed me as well. And they have to do is get that sorted and, cover themselves. So, no, I love it. Well done. Well done to Sensor.
Thank you very much. And it's great to be partnering with someone like yourself, Shannon, who offers so much more to the property management industry in WA.
The Associates Co provide reliable, fully trained professionals to assist you with running and scaling your property management department, providing high-quality, pre-trained virtual assistants ready to hit the ground running and revolutionise the way you run your portfolio, ensuring your time is spent doing the high-value tasks inside your rent roll that really matter. Not long ago, VAs within a business were considered a luxury. Now they are a staple for any business needing reliable support without the headache of traditional staffing. To find out more, head over to theassociatesco.com.